Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Marcel. I'm part of the investor education team here at Scotia iTrade. We're absolutely thrilled to have you join this special event on fraud awareness, an increasingly important topic for all investors. Now, today's session is focused on a rapidly evolving challenge: investment scams that appear across social media, online forums, private group chats, and other digital spaces. Now, we're going to explore how modern investment scams look online, why they can appear convincing, and the key warning signs that can help strengthen your fraud awareness. Now, I'm very pleased to introduce our guest speaker for today's session, Sanjay Viswanathan, Manager of Fraud Knowledge Governance at Scotiabank. Sanjay brings extensive experience in fraud investigation and prevention, with a focus on helping clients understand how financial scams evolve and how they show up in our everyday digital environments. Now, his role analyzes emerging fraud trends, developing educational strategies, and supporting teams across the bank by strengthening their fraud awareness for both employees and clients. We're very fortunate to have him with us today to share his expertise and break down the tactics scammers are using right now, where you're most likely to encounter them, and what practical steps you can take to safeguard your financial well-being. Welcome, Sanjay. How are you doing today?
Hi, Marcel. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you so much, Sanjay, again for being here with us. Now, to get us started, we'd love to learn more about you. Can you share more about your role and how it connects to supporting investors?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Sanjay Viswanathan, and I'm the manager of fraud knowledge governance at Scotiabank. A big part of my role is helping clients protect what matters most, and that's their hard-earned savings. Today's reality is that fraud is evolving faster than ever. Scams are smarter, more personalized, and increasingly difficult to spot. That's why I focus on breaking down on how modern fraud schemes are working and the red flags that often get overlooked, and the steps you need to take in order to verify information, stay informed before making a decision. My goal is simple: to empower you with the confidence and awareness to navigate today's digital world safely so you can invest, plan, and make decisions with clarity and a peace of mind.
I love that proactive focus on empowerment, especially with how fast scams are evolving in this day and age. Now, to ground everyone in the basics, when we talk about investment fraud today, what types of scams are you seeing most often targeting everyday investors, and how have they changed compared to a few years ago?
Yeah, where do I begin? Well, over the past few years, investment frauds and fraud in general has shifted dramatically. While traditional scams still exist, the biggest growth has really come from online-driven, social media-based schemes that target everyday clients right where they spend their most time at. So I'm going to go over a few of the common scams we're seeing now and really how they evolved from what it was previously. So the first thing that we want to start off with is these social media investment scams. Today, fraud often appears through platforms. We have the Instagrams, the TikToks, Reddits, Facebook, and other messaging apps. Bad actors often use things such as short videos, polished content, or impersonated accounts to pitch investment opportunities. And really, how that's changed over the past few years is a few years ago, scams were mostly emails, phone calls, text messages, even letters. Now, they've really woven into your everyday feed and can look like advice coming from influencers, friends, or even trusted experts with the use of artificial intelligence. That's not the only one. There's many other opportunities. The other one that comes to mind is pump and dump schemes, especially in group chats. Bad actors joining or creating group chats, promising early access to hot stocks, tokens. They often hype up these assets, get people to buy in, and then dump their shares once prices have risen, leaving others with losses. And that's really changed because before, these opportunities were usually happening on obscure forums that nobody really has access to. But now that they have WhatsApp, Discord servers, and private Telegram channels, and they usually label these as exclusive or VIP access, really trying to get them to believe that they're in on an opportunity that's exclusive. And with that, we really move into the next part of frauds and scams, which is impersonation scams. This involves fake advisors, fake brokerages, and how that works is these bad actors are now frequently impersonating legitimate advisors, financial advisors, investment firms, or regulators, posing as someone of expertise. And they use real logos, names, and even AI generated faces and voices to appear credible. Now, that's a significant change because deepfakes and AI tools were not a thing back in the days. And now these tools have made impersonation are far more convincing than your earlier days when emails and emails, text messages, and phone calls. And with that, we move into crypto-related scams. Crypto remains a major target area, especially in the social landscape. You see things such as fake coins, fraudulent trading platforms, fake programs that really promise a high return. And you even see things such as fake financial institution websites. And why that's a big problem is because bad actors exploit the complexity of crypto to make these platforms look legitimate, make their offers and pitches look legitimate. They use dashboards, charts, and statistics that are not real. And this really is all and it all ties into the clients feeling that they're actually on a legitimate website when they're not. And they're all designed to keep people into depositing more and more of their hard-earned funds. And then last but not least is romance-based investment scams. And that's really where a bad actor builds an online relationship with someone, sometimes for weeks, months, and even goes as far as years, and eventually convinces them to invest into a fraudulent, either a trading app or a scheme that they have no idea about. And it really is on the basis of a trust factor. And how that's changed is these scams have become more patient, more personal, and more emotionally manipulative, making victims believe that they're receiving genuine support and advice when in reality that's not always the case.
Yeah, it's unfortunate how the scams have evolved throughout the times. Another thing I wanted to bring up is a term that investors have been hearing a lot, and one that you've also mentioned is the pump and dump scams. Can you actually walk us through a typical pump and dump scheme, how it works, and why it's so convincing, especially online?
Pump and dump is quite new in the landscape of scams and fraud, and is really emerging because of how simple but complex it is. And basically, what it is when the bad actors actually what they do is they hype up or they build up a low value stock or a crypto token to make it seem like it's the next big thing. And I'm sure that term rings a bell when you see it online. When someone talks about the next big thing, often the messaging is about buying it early, and you see it all over social media, group chats, excitement messages, like for example, huge news that is coming, big screenshots of big profits, when in reality these are not legitimate. And as more investors every day jump in on these prices, they often rise, and you can actually see these charts going up, these numbers go like rising, and but in reality these are all artificial. And once it's hit its peak or its maximum amount, what happens is the bad actors in these cases usually sell all of the shares that they've purchased initially at a rising rate, and then the folks that have joined in later on usually are left with the losses when the item drops. And the goal really is to get people to buy in, move as fast as possible, and make it look like a golden opportunity. And unfortunately, a lot of clients do fall victims to this, and that is really the heart of pump and dump, where it's hype, rush, and then crash.
So it would be more of like that artificial buyers and demands in the market and kind of being able to increase that demand when really there's influencers in the back end manipulating the price. It's unfortunate. Now, you've also mentioned Sanjay pig butchering scams, which is definitely a newer term for a lot of us. Now, what does this type of scam involve, and why can it be particularly damaging for investors?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So this particular scam is a term that's not really, you don't really hear it much, besides on the news and things of that nature. But essentially what it is pig butchering scams are very damaging. It is a very damaging type of fraud because they combine both emotional manipulation with financial deception. This term comes from the idea of building up a victim before taking everything. So these scams usually start with a friendly message on social media, dating apps, or even a wrong number text message. I'm not sure if you've ever received this, but like someone sending you from a random number, you got a hello, how are you, or something of that nature. And these individuals, these bad actors, usually build up a relationship over weeks and months, earning trust, sharing personal stories, and presenting themselves as supportive, and knowledgeable. Once the trust is established, they introduce an investment opportunity, some sort of financial nature of the message, and this often evolves into a platform, which can be either cryptocurrency, financial platform, whatever the case might be, to make it look real. And initially, it starts off with investors and clients putting in small amounts that they see grow. And often what they do is they encourage them to continue to invest more. Hey, look, your initial return has grown by this amount. Why don't you go ahead and try a little bit more? And when that continues to grow, you're almost building up, and in this case, building up and then butchering our client. And unfortunately, what happens is once that funds is disappeared, everything starts to collapse and disappear, and the bad actor vanishes. It's a particularly damaging because victims aren't just losing money, but they also have that emotionally targeted and manipulated into believing someone cared about them, which makes the financial loss even more personal and devastating.
For sure, because that emotional manipulation really just changes the picture because it's not just a financial loss at that point, it also becomes personal because they've built up that long-term relationship. Now, based on what you're seeing right now, what new tactics or trends are fraudsters using to make scams feel more legitimate or harder to detect?
Yeah, that's a great one. And one of the biggest shifts we're seeing right now is that the bad actors are using technology to make scams feel incredibly real. Many are using AI generated photos, videos, and even voice clones to impersonate advisors or create fake success stories that look authentic. We're also seeing more polished fake investment platforms and websites that mimic real brokerage accounts. Here at Scotiabank, we see websites that look exactly similar to our website, but it's not legitimate. And it's all really designed to build trust. On social media, bad actors create large networks with fake accounts that comment, like, share each other's posts to make the opportunities seem popular and credible. Some even run long-term campaigns, slowly building relationships or communities before introducing the scam. And because these tactics blend into everyday digital spaces, TikTok, WhatsApp, Instagram, even Discord, it's much harder for investors to instantly recognize something as suspicious. This often results in scams occurring and don't look legitimate. They feel legitimate, and which just makes it far more effective and harder to detect at first glance.
Of course. Now, when investors do come across new opportunities, especially ones that they found online, what are some of the most common red flags that should immediately slow them down?
When investors come across a new opportunity online, there are always a few red flags that should immediately make them pause. One of the biggest is any promises or guarantees that usually have high returns, and we want to make sure this is legitimate. So, for example, another warning sign is urgency. Phrases such as "act now" or "you have a limited time" or "don't miss out" are designed to shut down your ability to think critically. You should always be cautious of the information that is coming in, especially from any anonymous social media accounts, group chats, or someone who refuses to provide verifiable credentials. If the opportunity involves moving money to unfamiliar websites, crypto wallets, or even overseas accounts, that's another major red flag. And finally, if someone discourages you from sharing what you know or the research, or insists you on keeping the opportunity private, or to not share with your loved ones or someone who's close to you, it's a strong indication that something isn't right. And any of those signals should always slow you down. But if you see several at once, it's almost certain that you can consider it to be a scam. So it's always good to be skeptical.
Now, from a practical standpoint, what would be some effective steps that investors can take to protect their accounts and their personal information?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot involved in that. And if someone believes they're in contact with a bad actor, it's important to be able to secure your websites and be able to get into verifiable channels. You want to make sure that security features such as two-factor authentication, multi-factor authentications are open and available. You want to make sure you're reviewing your transactions, reviewing your accounts, seeing that if everything is in place and it makes sense or not. Because the first situation is you want to make sure you are covering all your bases and you're really making sure that everything is trusted, and you can actually guarantee that these opportunities and these investment chances are legitimate. Once you've had that mindset, you want to make sure that investors can stay informed online without exposing themselves to unnecessary risk. So you want to make sure that you covered all your grounds, done all your due diligence, and then you want to act on the particular opportunity or not act on it, depending on what it is.
So, we've talked about some red flags and protection. Let's talk about some due diligence. Now, before we act on an investment idea, what does proper verification really look like? And what are some common areas that investors should be checking or confirming before they decide to move forward?
Proper verification really means slowing down long enough to really make sure that this opportunity is real and the information that is being provided is legitimate and coming from a reliable source. So before taking any actions on an investment idea, especially ones that you found online, you want to check a few key things. First and foremost, confirm whether the person or the company promoting the idea is actually registered with a legitimate regulator. And so real advisors and investment firms can always be verified through official databases. Next, you want to look for independent information about the investment. So, for example, the easiest way, and I always suggest, is a quick Google search. See the information that you're getting up from that. You want to make sure that they're actually they have company filings, financial statements, or even any sorts of news releases from credible sources, not just social media chatter, but if it's on a platform or an application, you want to confirm that. And you want to make sure that it's not a lookalike website. You can verify that that is the accurate URL, and ask yourself whether the returns being promised make sense. If they sound unusually high or risk-free, that alone should be a sign to pause. So if someone's guaranteeing you a 15% return and you compare it to other competitors and you're like, wait, this doesn't necessarily make sense, you want to make sure you take that quick pause. And true verification is about stepping back to confirm the facts, double checking the sources, and making sure the opportunity really stands up to objective scrutiny before putting money in.
And you've mentioned a lot that social media definitely plays a big role in these modern scams. So can you just remind us investors how most commonly get drawn into these fraudulent schemes through these social platforms?
Social media plays such a big role in modern scams because it's designed to make information feel personal, urgent, and really trustworthy. So most investors get drawn in when they see posts or videos that look like genuine success stories, someone showing huge returns, sharing screenshots, talking confidently about the next big thing. And scammers also use fake influencers accounts, paid promotions, sponsored websites, and coordinated comments to create the illusion that everyone is making money except you. So it's almost that fear of missing out. And group chats and private messages, invites, add another layer to that. So making that opportunity feel exclusive or insider only. And because these messages really blend into the same platforms we use to talk with friends, follow news, and get financial tips, it's easy to drop your guard. And so the combination of social proof, polished context, and constant repetition is powerful, and it pulls people into fraudulent schemes because they feel like they've already had the time to verify whether any of it's real or not. So it's important to keep that due diligence up and not just drop your guard for anything.
Perfect. And what would you recommend, or what should investors do first before taking the advice of any influencers or groups seriously when an idea is promoted on social media?
So when we think about that, when an investment idea shows up on social media, whether it's coming from an influencer, group chats, or someone claiming to have insider knowledge, the very first thing that should be done is to take a step back and verify the resources. Take your time, take that pause moment, and really verify. That means checking if the person is giving the advice is actually registered, are they licensed, or do they qualify to offer investment guidance? Most bad actors really rely on the fact that people won't check. The next step is to look for independent, credible information about the investments itself, not just what's being said in the comments or the videos, things like that. So that includes reviewing official filings, company announcements on reputable financial news websites. If the opportunity only exists within one social media bubble, that's a major red flag. And finally, taking a moment to ask yourself why this opportunity is being shared so publicly. Real insider information is never really promoted on social media websites or group chats. So really considering why it's only being shared there is huge. And then slowing down, checking credentials, and confirming the facts outside of social media are the smartest first steps before taking any online investment ideas seriously.
And if someone believes that they have fallen victim to a scam, what would be that very first step that they should take? And who could they contact?
So if someone has or believes that they've fallen victim to a scam, the very first step is to stop all contact with that bad actor and secure the account. And what securing your account means is changing your passwords, ensuring that multi-factor authentication, I'm going to consistently say that, you'll notice how much we prioritize that at the bank, and reviewing their recent transactions. And from there, they should immediately reach out to their institution, brokerage, or trusted individual from the place that they're working with, because firms often have fraud prevention teams that can either freeze accounts, block transfers, or help recover funds if action is taken quickly. And it's important to report these incidents to the appropriate regulator, such as the Ontario Security Commissions, the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center, or local law enforcement. Reporting helps protect others, gives the investigators the information that they need to track emerging scams. The biggest mistake is staying silent, and acting quickly and notifying the right people gives you the best chance of limiting the damage. And I know that's a very, very challenging thing to do, especially when you're in a moment of distress. But the best thing to do is to say something and to report it immediately.
That reminder to act quickly is so important. Now, we've also heard about recovery scams. They usually often target people who've already been affected. Can you explain to us how that works and what are recovery scams?
Before I just get into the recovery scams, is one of the more devastating ones, because it's exploiting someone who's already been exploited, and it really, really impacts a lot of clients, especially when they're in a moment of desperation, or they're really trying to get back, whether it's their life savings, or an amount of funds that cannot be recouped. So essentially what it is when recovery scams take place, what's happening is, these individuals are targeting people who have already been victimized once. After someone loses money in a scam, bad actors who bought their details reach out pretending to be law enforcement, regulators, lawyers, or even the platform's original support team. And what they do is they claim that they can actually recover those lost funds. So essentially, these individuals know what had already happened, and they're saying, "Hey, listen, I know you lost this much in a fraud or a scam, but I'm here to help you." But in order for me to help you, they mention something along the lines of, "We need a processing fee, or a tax, or a legal charge, or some kind of verification deposit." And unfortunately, in these cases, when folks are in a period of desperation and they want those money returned, they actually go ahead and act on it. And it's unfortunate, but from an investor's point of view, at this stage in particular, it becomes dangerous, because you're feeling that desperation, embarrassed, or hopeful that the loss can be reversed. And these individuals know that, and now they know that emotion and make people more vulnerable. But in reality, legitimate agencies will never ask for upfront payment to recover money. So when someone promises to get your fund back in exchange for a fee, that's always almost certain that it's a scam. And that's why it's crucial to slow down and verify communication before engaging. And we always want to recommend that to our clients and any investors, to always make sure you know who you're speaking to, and not to act immediately by taking a step back.
Wow, it's so unfortunate how these victims there's a cycle where they will fall for another scam. But thank you so much for sharing those great tips with us. Now, just to wrap things up, I want to ask one last question. What is one thing that you wish more investors understood about fraud, or a common myth that you'd like to clear up?
Yeah, this is a good one. And I think if there's one thing that I wish more investors would understand about fraud, is that scams aren't necessarily about intelligence. It's really about the emotional and the mental aspect of things. It's even if you're smart, experienced, whatever the case might be, people can get caught off guard when something triggers excitement, fear of missing out, or the hope of quick gains. A common myth is that scams are always obvious, or only happens to those who aren't paying attention. And it's almost kind of a stereotype that occurs, but in reality, that's not always the case. Today's fraud is designed to look legitimate, professional, and even friendly. So the most powerful protection isn't knowing every scam that exists. It's building habits of slowing down. So you aren't going to know the most latest, newest trend of fraud or scams that take place, because we're not always aware of it. But it's just the importance of being skeptical when you see something, and just slowing down and taking a step back. It's not necessarily a race. However, we are privileged with the abilities to look at our phones and follow up on the news, we see many stories come up time and time again of many different ways in which these bad actors are acting on innocent victims. And we want to make sure that we're up to date with that. And then not only that, once we are in that circumstance where we're able to see that, we want to understand that the most powerful protection that we have is really being able to trust your instincts when something feels rushed or too good to be true. That simple pause can protect you and more than anything else, and protect those that are around you.
Wow, thank you so much, Sanjay, for the great insights that you've shared with us. I know a lot of us have learned so much already.